Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing, not really discussing, but this is more going to be a, basically in defense of Aang from The Legend of Korra and why he's not as bad of a dad as some people might want to say. So stick around and let's talk about this. Alright, so, here's the thing. The first thing that I am going to say about why Aang isn't as bad of a dad as, some people might make it out to seem. He was, for years, for years, I can't remember here. Give me 1 second. It's not, I'm looked it up online and it's not telling me the exact period for how long Aang was considered the last airbender. All it says is, Aang was 132, after 100 years in the ice. Katara was 34, so he was, for about 22 years, Aang was the last of his people. He was the only surviving, in all honesty, the only surviving prospector for his people. Of course, you had the air acolytes, the people who studied the ways of the air nomads, just try to keep the culture alive. And that is not the same as being an actual airbender, being an actual air nomad. There was Bumi, unfortunately, he was born as a Nonbender. Kaya was a waterbender. And again, I'm not exactly excusing the fact that Kaya and Bumi both felt neglected, because again, non-bender, waterbender, and while they are part air nomad, the Air Nation, they didn't have the spiritual connection that most airbenders do. They were Aang's children, and by default they are half water tribe, half air nomad. They still didn't really necessarily fit in with the air nomads or the air acolytes for that specific reason. In fact, in book 2, I believe, whenever they go on their vacation, Tenzin and his family, some of the air acolytes are like, "Oh, we didn't realize that Avatar Aang had other children," and they're like, "Yeah, we're not airbenders," and the air acolytes was like, "Oh, okay," and so they basically just ignored them. And again, like I said, I'm going to repeat myself a lot. When Tenzin was born, for the first time in over 100 years, a new airbender had been born. Now I want you to put yourself in Aang's shoes. Someone who is an airbender, someone who will have possibly that spiritual connection and more of a connection to pretty much a lost culture at this point, is finally born. Of course, I'll be the first to admit, think about this. If you are a part of a genocide, you have lost your entire culture, you have lost all your family, almost everything about your entire way of life, culture and everything was destroyed, and you have another prospect, someone who you can teach and can pass it on, and hopefully your culture lives on. You're going to focus more of your time with them, even if you have other kids. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's going to happen to everybody. That's going to happen to anybody. In all honesty, you're going to spend more time with that child. Now, when Tenzin, Kaya, and Bumi were on their vacation or whatever, and Tenzin kept trying to say, "Yeah, what about all those vacations we and Dad went on?" And he was like riding the elephant koi, all this other stuff. They're like, "Nope, that was you." Aang was completely in the wrong for not taking his other kids with him. And I get it. He was under a lot of pressure trying to build back up the Air Nation. But that still doesn't give him the excuse to, neglect his other kids, which, from everything else that we've, seen, read, He loved his kids. He loved his children, but he was flawed in that. And honestly, I respect that a lot more, just because of the fact that instead of making him some sort of perfect goody being, it was like he wasn't that good of a dad. And I know this is kind of like defeating my purpose of in his defense, but not many people just take into consideration what Aang was thinking, and which is I've got to save my culture, or else it's gone. And so that, and by him doing that, it also messed with Tenzin a lot, such as when in Book 2, Spirits of Legend of Korra, Tenzin is freaking out because he's not a spiritual leader. He is not. He was so racked with pressure from Aang on trying to live up to the spiritualness of the airbenders, because that was one of those things. Whenever an airbender was born, or someone in the Air Nation air nomads had a child, they were almost always airbenders because of how spiritual they were. And so, Bumi was born, not a bender. Aang was like, he was worried. He had to be worried, and he had to be worried when he had another child, Kaya. She became a water bender. He loved her to death. I have no doubt about that. But again, not an airbender. Finally, Tenzin was born. Aang finally saw the opportunity to rebuild the air nomads. And going back, like I was saying, Book 2 Spirits, Tenzin gives up his role as Korra's spiritual advisor, because let's face it, he was not the man for the job. We can go into a whole nother situation about whether or not Korra was. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. But Unalaq shows up. He shows her that he knows how to deal with spirits, when Tenzin had not. So of course she went with that. Fast forward to when Tenzin, Bumi, and Kaya. Stop. Fast forward to when Tenzin, Bumi, and Kaya got trapped in the Fog of Lost Souls. He's doing his best to try to meditate, stay calm, so that way he doesn't go crazy in the fog, until he finally meets up with the spirit of his dad, Aang. Aang's just like, you're not me. I never wanted you to be me. You are your own person. You're Tenzin. And so I think that's when Tenzin finally realized he doesn't have to necessarily be this spiritual leader, because I'm sure as the avatars, let's face it, even Bumi and Kaya, they face so much more extra stress on their lives, just because they were the son of the avatar and Katara, who is at the time of Legend of Korra, she is the best healer in the entire world. So that had to bring so much stress on all of them, especially Tenzin, because that's who I'm kind of focusing on, because up until the time when Jinora was born, he was the only airbender after Aang died, and in the time of them looking for Korra, and up until Jinora was born, Tenzin was the only airbender in the world, just like his father before him. So, just again, you got to put yourself into that shoes. When you're the last person who has any ties to a type of culture, the stress on you to try to if you die, an entire part of history is left with you, or just disappears with you. And yeah, like I said, with the air acolytes, you had people practicing, learning more about the culture, living the ways of the air nomads. It's still not the same. In fact, here, I think it was. So I went and I looked through this right here, Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Promise, and on page 109 of the book. Yeah, I know. Basically, what happens is just as a bit of a setup, Aang met up with the Avatar Aang fan club, and part of what it is that they're basically people who were impressed with the air, pretty much more or less impressed with the air culture, air nomad culture, and they basically try to decorate their clubhouse as close to the air temples as possible. Obviously, some of it not that good. They have like a here. I probably just airbender flute, and he's playing it for them. They're just all having a good time. Katara, funnily enough, gets a little bit jealous. She's like, "What's going on?" And Aang basically says, and I think this is an important part. And this is on page 111 for those of you who have it, or if you want to just Google it yourselves, or I'll try and pull it up or something, or I'll figure something out later. But Aang's basically saying, I know it's just a silly fan club, but for a moment it almost felt like I was at home again with my people. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is just because, again, this is what kind of caused Aang to focus on Tenzin a whole lot more. He misses his people, and rightfully so. So when, again, I keep saying this over and over in this video, when Tenzin was born, he finally saw a chance to actually rebuild his culture, rebuild his people with somebody who was going to carry on the airbending legacy. And then, right? Okay, and so again, same book, the Promise, starting on page 165, we meet the Yudao chapter of the Avatar Aang fan club. They come in, and as you can see, here, I'll pull that up. All of them have the nomad arrows. At first, Aang is he's like, wow, y'all are really cool. Y'all really different. Clothes just look like the uniforms that the Western Air Temple wear. And they, basically saying we pride ourselves on our authenticity. And the arrows you painted on your foreheads look almost exactly like real airbender tattoos. So, let's see. Okay, and I apologize in advance because the paint, they're not painted on tattoo. They're not painted on, but they're the actual tattoos. They use the same ink that their nomads use, and Aang is rightfully upset about this because he's just like, wait, what? But air nomad tattoos have to be earned through years and years of airbending practice. They're not, and so. Hold on a second. Sorry, I'm making Xing, I believe. Again, I apologize in advance if I'm mispronouncing that. She's like, oh, we know Avatar Aang. For a fan club member to receive her tattoo, she must master hundreds of airbender-like forms. And Aang, airbender-like, those tattoos are sacred to my people. They describe who we are and how we see the world. You have no right to tattoo yourselves like that. And Xing is, I assure you that our members go through the most rigorous of study programs. By the end, and Aang, again, but how could you study air nomad philosophy at all and still do something like this? Katara's like, Aang, I'm sure it was an honest mistake, and for you to treat our tattoos like a part of some costume, his culture isn't a game. And that's pretty much the end of that part right there. And again, the reason why I'm bringing this up is just to kind of go again with the fact that for Aang, Tenzin being born was, I'm sure, and again, he loved about this, is because when you're the last survivor, whether it's your race or a culture or a religion or anything like that, and you have a chance to rebuild it in any type of way, you're going to make mistakes. Aang, I'm not defending the fact that he neglected Kai and Bumi by not taking them on those vacations with Tenzin like he should have. Aang was the Avatar. he had a responsibility to the world first and foremost. That's part of his character development in the original series. When he's on the lion turtle and like the spiritual stones, the meditation area, where he goes back, talks with Roku, Yang Chen, Kuruk, and Kyoshi on what is he supposed to do with the Fire Lord. He comes from, he comes from a people of non-aggression, pacifist, vegetarians. He doesn't eat meat, and for him, for all of his past lives, including another air nomad avatar, to say you're going to have to get rid of your morals, and you're going to have to kill the Fire Lord for you to bring balance back to the world. He managed to do it while sticking to his morals by taking away Ozai's bending. But he always struggled with that part first and foremost because of how connected he was to his people before he left, because he never wanted to be the Avatar. And again, and I know, and like I said, I've said this in the video like 4 times. I know I'm repeating the same argument over and over again, but it's just people need to understand that Aang wasn't a horrible person because he didn't spend a lot of time with Kaya and Bumi. He's not a horrible father because he loved all of his kids, but he let his grief, a bit of anger, and then just hope for his people consume him, which like anybody would do if they were in his situation. And that's why I wanted to make this video, is just because I wanted people to at least try to understand what his thought process was, because I don't think a lot of people take that in consideration. They're just like, oh, Aang's a horrible dad because he ignored Kai and Bumi, but they don't take in consideration why he spent more time with Tenzin. And again, I'll be the first to admit, like, yeah, he should have taken Kai and Bumi on all those vacations with Tenzin. And yeah, that was shitty of him. I'm not going to deny that. But I don't think he's as bad as everybody makes him out to be. Alright, this is going to be a fun one to edit. That recording took about 30 minutes. So, granted, most of that was just dead time of me looking through the book right here, trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to talk about. But anyways, what did you think? If you didn't like Aang because of how he raised his kids, did this video change your mind? Did it make you hate him more? Which I hope it didn't, because that was not my intention. Let me know. What did you think of the video? Going off. If you've read any of the Avatar comics, let me know down below which one is your favorite. What's the favorite moment from yours? In all honesty, I haven't read them since I got them a few years ago. But I really enjoyed them. What's your favorite moments from either the comics, from both series? What's one of your favorite memories, character? I don't know. Let's just talk about this down below. Y'all have a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always, and I will see y'all later.